BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello, and indeed, ahoy hoy, welcome on and all to episode 540 of BRB UK. It is me, I am Dan, I'm one of your hosts. Good day. How the devil are you? I'm fine, thanks. I know, it's been a long week for me too. But you know who else it's been a long week for? Coleman. Hello, Coleman.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Coleman's works like almost the equivalent of half another week on top of this week.
Yep.
Actually, no, probably over that now.
I don't know quite what's going, because my week's been very similar. I don't quite know what's going on with it. But a man who's his own boss and can probably rant about being his own boss is Timothy Hibbs. Say hello, Timothy Hibbs.
Hello, Timothy Hibbs. I even full named myself
you got
there.
Your name
You tricked
right
me
first
into
try.
it. Yeah.
Yep, I did. I don't know what's going on with this year. It feels like, I think it's because everyone's wanting to look busy because we're all being made to go back to the office. No one really wants to go back to the office, so everyone is slightly overcompensating by doing too much stuff.
I mean, I have been. I didn't leave the office. So,
I mean, they just don't
sorry,
let you
petrol
out.
station.
They just go, no, Coleman, no home time for you.
Didn't leave the forecourt.
I think I worked 28 extra hours last week. I don't think I've hit that this week. I'm close to it though. And then I'm just thinking, how am I meant to be playing? Oh, Star Wars just arrived today. I'm like, how am I meant to play this? I just don't have time.
Yeah.
Why didn't I get this for Steam?
I've got a feeling that might be why I've been generally playing nothing but Destiny. For that reason that
There's no.
it's
you
like
don't
I
need an
know
excuse
I
for
don't
that,
have to
Dan.
learn a new game mechanic. It's absolutely fine, and I could just turn my brain off because perhaps I'm just getting old. I don't know.
That might be it.
Yes.
Getting old.
I had a manic
Yeah.
January, February, March. My April has been a bit more average so far, although I just had a load of work piled on me in the last couple of days. So I'm possibly about to have a very busy end to the month. Right, that may kibosh me
That's
having
all right.
two long weekends in a row, but hey, no coronation for me.
Boo. No? I kind of
Possibly
got a feeling
not.
you probably weren't going to go crazy for the coronation anyway. I didn't think your default position on coronations was going bonkers for keeping it in the family, as it were.
I'd be more excited about it if he was paying for it himself, and even then, I wouldn't be that excited. So
There's only one
Fair enough.
coronation that I'm bothered about, guys.
Chicken.
chicken.
Chicken is
street.
clearly the coronation you need to go on. Hi, YouTube copyright strike. How you
Oh yeah,
doing?
we might actually get a strike on that one. I should have.
Can you not say
I'm gonna cut that
coronation
very
within the
much
first 10 minutes of a podcast? Is that how it works?
I have no idea. Right, before we, as probably as interested as our listeners are to hear about how hard we work at work and how much we have dislike for the royal family, let's
Well, I think that's
quickly.
pushing it far. I don't think I was very careful.
Okay.
Not to say that Tim hates King Charles. All
That's
right?
fair enough. I mean, you could say
I was
say
very
that.
careful not to say that.
That's fair.
Some people might not like you for it. That's all I was thinking. Some people may love you for it. But I don't know, Tim. I don't know. It's not a bet I was willing to make on your behalf.
Okay. Fine.
I'm always trying to kind of go down the middle, the middle lane when it comes to things like politics and stuff on the show. But I can wholeheartedly say when it comes to the royal family, I just think they're flipping useless.
It was a nice idea a few hundred years ago.
Was it, though?
Not really.
Was it, though?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Most
even a
other
good
countries
idea
would argue
a
it
couple
wasn't.
of hundred years ago.
Anywho, before we get on to the games we've done play, I thought
Right.
we'd address the elephant in the room because
There's an elephant in the room.
the sort of extra
How does this
stress
keep
that
on
went
happening
top
without
of
me
work
noticing?
was they sneak past you. They got little ballet shoes on. They tiptoe past you. It's like a Disney film.
They do.
Mm,
Yeah.
well, that's hippos.
Or they're
Anyway.
just so massive they blend into the concrete wall of your tower block. And you
Very
have no
good.
idea that they're just standing outside your window, being a big grey elephant. You go, there's that grey wall I always look at. What you don't know is that it's an elephant, mate.
Anyway,
What is
the
said
extra
elephant?
stress I was referring to is that you may have noticed, especially if you're a subscriber on our RSS feed for Android, or if you're a subscriber to the show on iTunes, sorry, Apple Podcasts, you may not have seen last week's show and had to go through a different route like Spotify or YouTube or something, or maybe directly on the site to listen to the show, that is because we've got a kind of an ownership issue going along with the podcast feeds, because they were set up in the old SG days and not by us directly, and it's caused a bit of an issue. I will say there's an alternative RSS feed that I'm now linking into the show notes. So on the website, you know, there's a different link that you can use there for Android users. The Apple Podcast, that is a bit more of an issue. We can't really switch that one because the Apple account is also owned by somebody else. So I will say on Apple Podcasts, if instead of subscribing to BRB UK, if you subscribe to the Big Red Barrel podcast feed, which is the one that was designed for all the podcasts, we do go through on there because that's through a completely different feed that we do have ownership of. So there are ways around it. If you're unable, I mean, if you've had to listen through different ways and you need to know a different way, then reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction. But yeah, very sorry about that. It's been an absolute pain in the ass for us, and hopefully it's something we can sort in the future.
Yes, and thank you for your patience, and we'll do what we can to make it as easy as possible for you to find us.
Yes.
But
there is also
even if we have to relaunch the podcast app.
Yep.
We're bringing back the Big Red Barrel podcast app on what was it, Amazon Marketplace?
Yep. iTunes, it was there for a bit. It's all good. It's all good. So yes, that was the completely different elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The completely different one than I was expecting. I think there's a bigger, grumpier one that we'll come on to in a little bit. But first of all, we
don't have room for more elephants, Dan. Barely have room for one.
There is always room for another. You can always thumb another elephant in without
too much trouble. There's millions of elephants all under one roof.
All under one roof. You're thinking of giraffes, Coleman.
It's called Trunks R Us.
I am thinking of giraffes. Millions of Jeffreys.
All under one roof.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we've been playing video games. Shall we talk about said video games? Because we've got a couple of reviews to get through. Let's start. I was going to say let's start with Tim, but I think I need to talk about mine first because I need to see how much space we've got after Tim speaks.
Right.
Okay.
Burn. Yes, so I've been playing. I've had this one in my possession for a little while, but I haven't. I've been away, and we had our little hiatus and stuff. So now I'm finally getting around to playing this. But the Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition, that's been released a little while ago. You may remember this title from 2019. In fact, I believe this was I think this was the game of the year we had on Big Red Barrel that year, our golden Barrel Award, and also one of my favorite games of the last generation. And the only reason I didn't play it to completion is because I started getting into PC gaming and I was playing this on the Xbox One. And the frame rate on the Xbox One was a little bit, especially on the launch PlayStation Xbox One that I was using, wasn't favorable. And then when I tried to move over to PC, there was no kind of cross save, even though they were both available on Game Pass. So
loading times
I
are
really didn't want to start
as well,
again.
from memory.
Yeah,
your loading times are hideous.
That's also true.
Yeah, they weren't great.
Yeah, it is.
So every time, and I've tried to get back into it a couple of times, but I really wanted to play my original save. And now that it's, and also I've had a couple of technical issues on the PC in the past as well that kind of gave me problems here and there. So now they made the announcement of the Spacer's Choice Edition, which is the same game out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and improvements to the PC as well, which also includes all the DLC expansions that released for the game as well. I was much more excited to get into this because, hey, Super Sexy Drive only makes things better when it comes to games being re-released for the PS5. So I was...
Love me a Super Sexy Drive.
Yes, they were very nice enough to send me a copy on PlayStation 5, and I have been playing the holy heck out of that now, and I'm super happy to get back into this. If you don't know, The Outer Worlds is a game from Obsidian, them that made the I believe it was the Fallout New Vegas.
Yep.
Which a lot of people really, really, sorry?
Not the old Vegas.
Tim was being funny.
Let's gloss
over.
It's
not the old Vegas.
Not used to it. Sorry.
I mean, I'm playing fast and loose with funny there.
Yeah,
I'm not
very
gonna lie.
loose definition of the word funny.
The term.
Tim
Stupid,
said
maybe.
something. That's more accurate, right? Tim said something.
Yeah, it wasn't
Carry
worth
on.
coming back to anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, if you don't know, Obsidian Entertainment, they made Fallout New Vegas, which, while received very well, I believe, by a lot of fans story-wise and what have you, there were some issues, technical and all that kind of stuff that had to be patched out over time because they were kind of rushed to make that game. And the idea of them making a Fallout-style game got a lot of people very excited, and I like the idea of Fallout, but the setting I've always found a bit. I mean, because it's
Really?
past the post nuclear explosion, the world has been ravaged. Bit depressing. The idea of them making.
I really like the setting. Funnily enough, well, for me, that's one of the big draws of it. But I digress.
Right.
I like all the Art Deco stuff. The actual the kind of wasteland stuff, I'm not a huge fan of. I've tried getting into it a few times, and I do like the original games. It's the first person ones I kind of struggle with more. So taking that kind of style of game and sticking it in space is something that's space. Something that I was very excited by, and true to the release once it came out, absolutely loved it. Made it my game of the year. So bringing it to the PS5. Now we've got this remastered edition that plays in 4K. It plays at 60 frames a second. It looks lovely. It plays really well. The load times are improved. There was a little bit of a stumbling block out the gate. I saw a lot of people reporting on issues with the game, but picking it up a few weeks after, all of that stuff seems to be patched out for the most of it. For the majority, sorry. The only real kind of problems I had with the game was when first going out into the open world, a little bit of slowdown, a little bit of stutter, but not taking you back like you've gone back a generation or something. It was just barely enough to be noticeable. But otherwise, yeah, the improvements made to the game have been really good, and I've been very much enjoying getting back into this one. I'm looking for. I mean, again, haven't completed it yet because it's a big old game to get
Big
through,
old game.
and after that, I've got 2 DLC packs to get through that. But this is going to be keeping me busy for quite some time, I feel.
The overhaul of the visuals is kind of one of the big things about it. It's not only is it increased frame rate, there's more visual bells and whistles there. In particular, they've tried to make characters look more realistically rendered, but from the screenshots I've seen, they're more uncanny valley than the old version.
You think? So? I mean, I think that's just moving to a different engine.
Does it feel more immersive, or is it just kind of? Is it just a bit? Would you take the increased frame rate and not really worry about the kind of the other graphical bells and whistles there?
So I think when it comes to the kind of uncanny valley stuff you're speaking of, I believe that was there in the first game. They're like Elden Ring, not Elden Ring, Elder Scrolls and Fallout. The facial animations and things, they are quite stiff, and I think that's just kind of working through engines and stuff that in the past and bringing that forward. And there probably is a case of moving from one engine to another, or colors changing, lighting's changing, all that kind of stuff. So that stiffness might come out a bit more, but it's not something that's ever really bothered me because it's something that I think is apparent there in the previous game. It's maybe not as noticeable without all the HDR bells and whistles and things added on top. But yeah, no, I've never found that distracting in the previous game. I don't find that distracting in this one either.
I mean, so it sounds like the big uplift, though, really is for kind of primarily console users, where it's really digging into the increased grunt that the PS5 and the series consoles. God's sake, God damn it, Microsoft. That really that's where the big uplift is. I think perhaps PC users might not notice so much, but if you haven't got into Outer Worlds, it sounds like if you haven't got the original game, this is a really compelling, story-driven game with loads of content that you can probably get stuck into for fairly cheap. I mean, I think I think you can probably get it if you shop around at a pretty reasonable price at the moment.
Oh yeah, so the 50 quid package, that's a pretty decent price considering like the price of the game on its own and the DLC separate to that. But it is worth getting and playing. I mean, it's definitely worth playing on new hardware because it runs so much smoother. And I have seen like it's quite off-putting when you look on Steam. So I was trying to get some information on Steam, and the minute you load it up, it's just full of all these negative reviews. But then when you switch that to recent, it all of a sudden changes. There's a lot more people happier now. It's now it's been patched and improved. But yeah, I think it's
now mixed. You'll be pleased
it's
to
now
hear.
it's mixed and not negative. And I don't like other people's reviews, especially customer reviews, to influence a purchase unless you've played yourself. But yeah, you've got my guarantee on this one. I think it is a very good. I really liked the first iteration of this. I really like the second iteration of this. I will say once again, they did send me a free copy, but I was going to pick this up anyway because I really like that game and I just wanted to continue on better hardware.
I think you answered the question I was going to ask already, partially at least, but I just wanted to clarify. Is the DLC content kind of end game content or mid game content? Is it something you can come across through playing through, or do you have to leave it till the end of the game?
So I'm not 100%. I think it's end game content after the story, but I don't know. Maybe they do pop up in mission along the way and sort of, because I know there was a warning that popped up that said you should be this level before entering a mission. So I'm assuming it's one that you could accidentally walk into, but it seems to give you warning that you're going to do that.
Okay.
Because I had that because I've recently started playing a few months ago now. Started getting into Borderlands 2 because I never finished that. And I had that kind of thing where I accidentally went into...
the number of times I've played that bloody first mission in Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
Christ.
But now on Steam Deck.
So how does it work on your massive deck?
Very, very, very well. But this isn't a Borderlands 2 review. The only issue I had was the resolution keeps going back into default, and you have to keep switching out every time you open it up to go back into Steam Deck. But the comparison there was every time I play that game, because it came with all the expansions and DLC and stuff. Every now and then I'll accidentally walk into the wrong checkpoint, and all the characters will start talking like I finished the story, and I'm playing flipping D&D or something very random. So There are warnings that you're going to do that this time round by the looks of it.
Fair enough.
So yeah, there you go. Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition, which is an excellent title because if you don't know, the Spacer's Choice in the game, they're kind of the kind of space Amazon, I'd say, or they provide all the services, but they're all a bit rubbish.
Quick question: do they pay taxes?
Do they pay their space taxes?
I mean, they seem to make all their employees pay taxes in some form.
Not the same, Coleman. Not the same.
Do they let their employees unionize?
Probably not, but they do charge them for grave site fees for their grave for when they eventually will die.
Sounds like the bloody NHS. Oh, you want to park your car at work, do you? Oh, well, that'll be 10 quid a day. Oh, thanks.
I think the main sort of takeaway from this is if you were looking, if you enjoyed the game and were waiting for an upgrade, or if you were looking to pick this up down the line, especially if you can find it on a deal as well, if you were looking to pick this up and were put off by the initial reviews of technical issues, those are seemingly gone. So I would say this is a good one to pick up, especially if you can find a good old deal on it.
Oh, I love a good old deal.
I love a deal.
I love a deal. Space Panther.
Speaking of deals, because it might help us transition from one game to another as well, I took some of your advice, Mr. Coleman. I signed up for the game collection, and I'm pretty happy with the service I have received so far.
They're very good, aren't they?
Yes, well, I only ordered it the other day, and this has now arrived. I'm holding up a copy of Jedi Survivor for anyone that hasn't seen the video version. So I was quite pleased with that. But I actually initially signed up to buy me a copy of Dead Island 2. So yeah, that'll help me transition into that, if that's okay to do so. Yeah, the reason why I did that is because I wasn't
Transition away, Tim.
Yeah, I wasn't actually sure I was getting a review copy of it. And then literally as I was about to press go on the order, they were like, hold off. You're getting a review copy, we just haven't sent them out yet. And review copies did come out a bit late, which is sometimes a bit of a bad sign. Like, there were bigger people than me that got their review copies earlier than I did, but I only got my review copy on the day of launch, which was the day after we podcast last week, hence the reason why I wasn't able to talk about it until this week, basically. But
is it weird that I've watched 3 different reviews of Dead Island 2 and they're all from Australian YouTubers?
Yes, well, I imagine...
That is quite random.
Yeah, I imagine one of them was from Skill Up,
Dead Island 2?
I've also watched
too.
And I will say, before I comment on his comments, because there's one thing I do want to do a little bit is talk about his review. Let me just go up front with what I was thinking. Now, because the reason why I also mentioned the fact that I was planning on buying it is because I was playing it in the mindset of I was willing to spend my own money on it. I didn't in the end, But I kind of had come over to that, and we discussed before the show that partly for the good of the podcast and partly just to get a bit more coverage, that I would possibly buy a copy of Dead Island 2, you would buy Jedi Survivor, and eventually we might swap over so that we could both get to play them as well.
So now we both have Star Wars, and you get you get Dead Island,
and I get Dead Island 2. But I'm going to encourage both of you to buy a copy of Dead Island 2. I absolutely love this game, and I love it a bit more than I've seen other reviews enthuse about it. Go complete that. As I said, I got a review copy of the game, so you can take that with a pinch of salt if you like, but I was approaching it with the attitude of I was willing to spend my own money on it, partly because I really liked the demo that I got to play at WASD. And I came back from that saying I was surprised at how much I liked it. I've just got to the part that I actually played in the demo. I've just kind of started on that bit of the game, which is actually quite near the end of the game in terms of content. I've still got a couple of levels to go because, again, it's a fairly big game, and I've been slightly restricted by the amount of time that I've had to play this week. But I've absolutely loved it up to this point. There's a few qualifiers to that and a few things like we weren't able to. I convinced one of my friends to buy it so that I could play co-op with them, and then we weren't able to play co-op, mainly because you can only invite someone that is a higher level than you to join. You can't do it the other way round, and you can't host on a PS4, which my friend was playing on, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. That's a known thing, and they're going to try and patch that out later. So that was a bit of a shame and put a damper on things. But I do think this game will be really enjoyable in co-op, hence the fact I'd like one or both of you to try and pick it up. Maybe wait for it to be on sale to do that, possibly, especially as we're busy in the next couple of weeks. I had a friend previously that absolutely loved the first game, enthused about it quite a lot, tried to get me to pick it up as well, and I just wasn't that interested. I think partly because the original game had a bit of baggage that came with it in terms of the trailer that got a weird reception when it didn't seem to relate to the game when it came to reviews. And then there was that weird bust thing that they put out with the bikini on that got a lot of ire from other parts of games journalism and stuff.
I think that was for the spin-off Riptide.
Yeah, Riptide.
But the other thing with Dead Island 1 was the falling out of the studio and the publisher, because I believe that was Techland, wasn't it? Who went off to go and make Dying Light.
Both of those games had a bit of a weird thing going on, and I was one of the people that was put off by that. I think possibly I shouldn't have done, or even this game is slightly different to those, but it seems to be following a similar formula. From what I know of those games, and I absolutely love what it does. Like, it's one of the things that SkillUp said that I'm not like massively annoyed with him about this. I take some issue with, though, is he said it's an unambitious game. I can kind of see what he's getting at there in the terms of it's not a complete open world game in the sense of, massive areas where you can go anywhere. There are distinct levels that you're going from one area to another that's got like loading times between, but the areas in themselves are reasonably large. I think that it does what it does in the way that it does it, and it just makes the whole game unashamedly fun. Like that's its primary concern is this fun? Is this a fun way of doing things? And I can kind of understand that it's not like breaking any molds or kind of setting any new boundaries or anything. But I don't need every game that I ever play to do that. And I quite appreciate a game that just goes, have fun with this. Go and have some fun. Now, as I said, I haven't got right to the end of the game, so it could crap the bed at the absolute end levels sort of thing. But I've played through one of the levels that I haven't played through yet, and I think there's a couple of other areas I haven't opened up yet, and one of them will probably be the end of the game. But everything it's done so far, like the way it tells the story, the way it presents things, the different character options you have. Anyone doesn't know, it's a kind of zombie game where you're mostly focused on melee. It doesn't introduce like guns until like halfway through the game, but it's kind of melee focused brawler where you are fighting wave of zombies that have infected the whole of LA, as they refer to it as, which is the one thing that grates me the wrong way, because I don't like that spelling. I don't like that LA thing at all, and they do ram that down your throat a little bit. But you've got like
Hollywood would have been a lot better.
Well, Hollywood? Oh, well, no, I think that's worse. But anyway, but I think yeah.
No, just shut your mouth, Timothy.
If they set Dead Island 3 in Hull, that'd be a good one.
Tonight we dine in Hull.
But
No, just Hull.
That is my other problem with the game, in that LA is not an island.
You play a bloke called Fred Island.
Really not an island. But I guess it's a metaphorical island because it's kind of been closed off from the rest of America while they try and contain this zombie outbreak that's reached LA, basically. But LA is a fun environment to do stuff in. There's lots of like sun-soaked beaches. I've just got through the Venice Beach level, which was quite fun to play through. There's a whole area of Bel Air, which gives you a whole Flesh Prince thing that you can play with for a little bit and kind of,
Whoa, what?
Flesh Prince of Bel Air. It's a play on words, Dan. Keep up. Right.
Wow. That's no. I am keeping up. I'm just saying that sounds like some kind of really horrendous sex doll.
I think I've seen that movie.
Say that.
Yeah, probably.
Oh wait, that reminds me, Dan. I've got to return a DVD to you.
Oh, lovely. Thanks. If you could just do the Alco wipe on it before you.
But yeah,
that'd be lovely. Thanks, mate.
Also, and this may be something that is, it's definitely something that's adding to my enjoyment of the game, and this might not be for everyone, but it's one of those things where, like, the structure of the story of the game, the characters, and sorry, I was going to say before, there's 6 different characters you can choose from at the beginning of the game. They have innate skills that make a slight difference to how you structure your character. And they've got different stats in terms of like health, regain, and resilience and sort of things that kind of make a difference to how you operate your character to start with, although you can negate them as you unlock different skills as you go through the game. But they also make a difference to story beats and the actual kind of responses that you have. You can tell in some of the setup that they're using, making things slightly vague so it can respond to a male or female character, or just generally kind of not have to be completely rewritten. But there are things where there are differences in the way the story stands out. And I picked Ryan as my initial character, partly because
great high impact name.
He's dressed like a fireman, but he's actually a stripper. And I found that quite funny. I wanted to see where they took that in the story, and they don't play that up too much, but he does kind of
Mr. November rides again.
He does kind of make references to that throughout the game.
What, to Mr. November?
No. But yeah, the story starts with you on a plane that doesn't quite make it out of LA after a small disaster, a zombie-based disaster, kind of breaks out on the plane. And you kind of begin the game, the plane having crashed, and you having to get out and find your way out to LA, and then progress the story from there. And I like the setup. I like the way it's done things. I've really enjoyed the gameplay. But yeah, as I was almost coming on to before, like the kind of just the general loop of generally drop kicking a zombie, throwing some bombs at crowds of zombies, or like drop kicking them and then hitting them a couple of times, stomping in their heads. It's just an ever-enjoying game loop, and they add more skills into that kind of makes it more enjoyable. They add different, like, entire different mechanics that they've just added. Like, they've just added another layer into things that wasn't present before. Kind of autophage bonus type thing, and that you've got like the more autophage related skills that you pick, the different balance of like powerful additions to what you're doing, but also negatives. So you've got to kind of weigh up the whole thing as well. And just, yeah, that whole thing is great. The other thing is, a lot of people say, oh, why do we get so many zombie games? And part of the reason is perfectly realized in this game. You would not be able to do the things that you are doing to other human beings in this game. Like, there is a lot of beheadings. There's a lot of like knocking off people's heads with various different weapons in various different ways. And there's loads of different like animations for all the different weapons in the game. There's loads of different weapons. You can customize them to add like different not environmental effects, but effects that are relate to different statuses, such as electricity or fire. And I mentioned when I played the demo previously, there was a fire axe in the demo, and I've mainly kept on building fire axes throughout the game. And when I say fire axe, it's not just like an axe that you can rescue yourself with fire. It's an actual axe that has a couple of blowtorches on it, so it set things alight when you're using it.
I have a question.
Yes?
I have a question. Surely your fireman character would have words about that. He would be like, I'm terribly, this
Not
is
a real
a flagrant...
fireman,
He's a stripper.
Not a real fireman.
Yeah, and the fireman zombies in the game are often resistant to some of those things, so they can be real dicks to deal with as well. So
strippers, they're resistant to strippers.
Yeah, no, resistant to fire and electricity. And the other thing, which is, again, where you could not do this in other games, or you couldn't do it with other characters other than like fantasy-based things and zombies, the caustic effects which are like acid kind of burning away and melting skin, and the effects for that is something else. Like, it actually kind of has a whole story-based thing that kind of integral to the part of the story that I really like, and I think it's really interesting where it's going with that. But there's like whole swimming pools full of acid that you can drop kick zombies into, and they melt. But you also see the whole skin melting off, their arms dropping off and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can also
Pretty cool.
just properly in a counter attack move, you can grab a zombie by the neck and punch your fist straight through their face, which like just puts a smile on my face every time. Like, I condone real world violence, so I don't think I'm a psycho, but it makes me laugh every time I do it.
Tim, I think you might be, mate.
I might be.
Well, you're saying we get so many zombie games because you couldn't do this stuff to a human being in a game without some. I mean, I'm sure it'd have some kind of backlash. Personally, I want that. I want a game so realistic and so gruesome that, say, if I'm playing GTA and I decide to take someone out of the car and curb stomp them, I want to feel bad about that decision. I want that to weigh on me for the rest of my life.
Wow, Jesus Christ, Cole.
I want to really think about playing Call of Duty after I've shot someone in the face. Like, I can't believe I just took a life.
Why am I teabagging them? What's wrong with me?
Standing in a cold shower crying.
But yeah,
why did I have to put both balls in their mouth?
I generally really enjoy the combat and have enjoyed the combat all the way through. I'd also really like to play that more in co-op because there's skills that really kind of like go together nicely. There's like war cries that can unbuff zombie or make zombies weak and also toughen up you and your teammates. And so it does seem like there's skills that will work together nicely for co-op. As I said, I really enjoyed the game from top to bottom to the point where, and you know me and achievements, this is not something I usually do, but I'm like planning my path to platinum the game because I want more excuses to go back. I said to my friend that I'll have to start a new character so that we can play in co-op, but I was already planning on playing through as a new character to see where that goes. I don't know if it's just a popular thing because it's been stuck in development hell, not hell A, but development hell for like 9 years or so. Also, I worry about
development hole.
I wonder if some of the criticism feels more justified because it's coming from dam busters. And okay, they used to be Free Radical and they made Time Splitters, which was much beloved, but they got a bit of a kicking for Haze, probably rightly. I liked Homefront more than most people, but I accept that was not a brilliant game.
That got a really big kicking.
Yeah. And I also worry about how well this game is going to do, considering how much I really do like it, and that it's kind of with the looming shadow on the horizon of Jedi Survivor, Street Fighter 6, the new Zelda game, and a generally busy summer, that they waited 9 years and then brought it out the week before all that stuff hits. I think this could get a bit lost in the shuffle, and I just urge people, especially if you like co-op games, to possibly consider picking this up, even if you end up waiting to pick it up at a cheaper price, because I think it's got a lot going for it. And I've played it all in single player so far and just absolutely love the experience. So yeah, just want to encourage other people to possibly pick it up as well. And yeah, just because other people have marked it down a bit, possibly not all with bad intentions, but not necessarily for the right reason, because I just think it's really fun. And that's what I want from my video games.
So what I'm hearing is, if you take it at face value and appreciate it's a slightly ridiculous, over-the-top, bombastic zombie looter shooter,
yeah,
you're going to have fun. If you start trying to take it too seriously, nah, mate.
Yeah, I intend on picking this one up, but maybe not right now. Again, like literally, Star Wars is just
There's a lot of stuff to play coming up.
But Coleman,
be playing a lot of that.
Yeah, as I said, if you tell me that you picked it up and you want me to restart again to play with you, even after I've restarted once more to play with my other friend, I'd happily do that because I like it that much, basically. The only thing is you need to play for the first hour or so before it unlocks co-op, and so that puts a slight extra barrier to entry in the co-op but I will gladly do that again to play more of this because I think it's a really fun game, basically.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I'll probably look out for sales myself, but I do want to pick it up at some point, and if the problem is, like, again, Star Wars just came out. And if it's anything like the last game, I played that solidly every day and night, and it took me ages to get through anyway. So I've got a feeling it's going to be similar for this one.
I mean, like, I'm just looking at the queue of stuff that's coming down the line. Like Diablo 4's on my list as well. Jedi, of course, is there. I mean, there is just it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, I know usually it's slightly silly season, but this year is just the most
usually this
ridiculous
time
I
of
can
year
remember for
it's
a
a
long
bit
while.
calmer. We usually get a bit of a calm in the summer period, and just as summer's about to kick off, it's going absolutely crazy. So, like, there's usually a glut at the end of the financial year, and then it's usually it's till October when it gets really silly. But we've got a very busy summer this year, so yeah.
Good stuff, Tim. So stupid zombie fun. Sounds like it is indeed stupid zombie fun. Indestructible. That was my memories of Street Fighter the last time I played it. Sorry, Coleman.
My ears.
But there's new things in the world of Street Fighter. New shiny Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 finally got its demo out there. Hadouken! Yes, indeed. And I've been dabbling a bit in it. Tim, you've played it lots of times before at various events.
So have I.
Really I think it's the first time any of the single player stuff's come along, and I was particularly impressed with, and I think it's been a bit of a problem with previous releases, actually it really does a nice deep dive in an accessible way about how you use the moveset of each character and come up strategies. So I really appreciated that. I think it's looking like the most accessible Street Fighter for a long while, even though there seems to be now about 4,000 gauges that I need to keep an eye on and do something with. But apart from that, seems like good fun. So was this the same version that's been around kind of the events you've been at, or is this completely different?
No, basically,
bunch of Ryus.
The stuff that's been at events has all been multiplayer focused. So it's been generally one-on-one stuff that had more characters available, because this only had the two, Luke and Ryu, whereas in other builds there's been more characters available. But this is the first time we've seen the single-player content. It's the first time we've seen, as far as I know, it's the first time we've seen any arcade content, other than there have been preview events where some of this content has been shown to press before. But this is the first time that we've seen the single player content. It's also the first time that we've seen some of the extreme parts of it as well. There's a mode where you can it's the first to 5 knockdowns rather than having to deplete health bars. And there's also a charging bull gimmick that goes across the screen that makes that more tricky to kind of time as well. And so that was quite interesting. The single player stuff gives you the chance to build a character, which again we haven't really seen before. That seemed really in depth. You know me, I don't like building characters that much, but a lot of people like that more than me. So I kind of glossed over that a little bit, but I did have a little dig through just to see what the options were. It seems quite extensive in terms of, being able to build different characters and change their face shapes and hair types and tattoos and all that type of stuff that you'd want to add. And then it gives you the little introduction part of the game. Again, I thought they gave you quite a good tutorial intro, but then it also gives you the first part of the game, which kind of introduces you to some things. I thought it was interesting that they kind of limited you to playing with the new control style as well, the modern controls, as they call it, where
really,
it's
I could
simplified
pick the
inputs.
normal one. I could definitely pick the normal one.
In the arcade mode and other stuff, you could. In the intro to the single player game, it forces you to play that to a point, and then you can pick what you want, basically. But yeah, so it intros you to that to start with. You then spar with Luke to start with, and then go out into the kind of open world setting in which you can challenge like anyone on the street to a fight, basically. And then there's various different things it shows
just
you.
like Liverpool after dark.
And then it shows you various different things. Oh, and I should say that's Metro City from Final Fight days as well, that they've kind of introduced you to. They talk about the former mayor, Mayor Hagar, who was obviously a fighter in that game, and how he brought kind of peace to the city, but everyone is kind of battle hardened and ready for a fight type of thing. So they kind of introduce that to you. They also kind of introduce the fact that you can learn different moves from different masters, and so that you can go and find Chun-Li to try and learn some stuff from her.
Spinning bird kick.
Yeah, it kind of gives you the first bit of the game. I can't remember if you actually do meet Chun-Li in the end or they just talk about her. But yeah, there's a kind of opening part of the game where you can go through. Surprisingly large part of the demo, considering that there was the single player content, the arcade content, and you could play online. I don't know about you, Dan. I didn't actually play any of the online stuff, knowing that I would get my ass kicked like I did in the beta. But that's why I'm extra glad that the single player...
I don't need to feel that bad about myself.
Exactly. That's why I'm extra glad that the single player content's there and it'll actually hook me in. It means, unlike the last game where I didn't buy it partly because I knew I wouldn't get the online stuff was the main focus when they launched it. But also, they didn't really have the single player content, and I didn't like their business model, so I didn't actually buy the last game, despite being a massive fan of Street Fighter from times past. But yeah, I'm definitely on board for this game, even more so having played the demo. Really enjoyed that, so I'm quite excited to see the final game as well. So yeah,
jolly good.
Also, just interestingly, I'd never seen a game do this before. I was watching some people play Street Fighter 5 at loading the other day, and an advert came up for Street Fighter 6. I hadn't seen that before in a game.
I've seen that a bunch of times in different various games. Even so far back as playing Borderlands 2, it advertises Borderlands 3. And Borderlands 2 is hella old, so weird.
Okay.
Right, that's all the games we done played, and we kind of went a bit over this week, so we can't really talk too much about the news. Dan, do you want to give us a cliff notes?
It's a good job there's been nothing of note this week.
Sorry.
I'm really glad.
We'll just do the one thing, but we won't go into it too much. I think, Dan, if you want to explain what's happening, and then we'll just give us quick opinion, and then we're good.
All right, okay. So, as you've probably heard, Microsoft stated its intent, and Activision indicated its consent for forceful monetary ravaging by
Dodgy
Microsoft.
way of putting it. Thanks.
It's all right. So there was the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger that both parties seem very interested to do so, but needs essentially approval in the major markets to basically reassure the powers that be that this isn't going to introduce a monopoly and detrimentally affect the choices available to consumers or innovation in the industry that it's a part of. So that's kind of the background to this. So in the US, I believe it's the FDA are lodging a complaint against Microsoft about it. Obviously, the UK, we've had the Competition and Markets Authority, who a couple of weeks back sounded like they were slightly on the favourable side of things. I think slightly surprised many of us by blocking this merger. So the Competition and Market Authority, they assess these kind of big mergers.
And just after Jim Ryan sent them that really nice fruit basket.
I know, right? Funny that. Problem is, Sony, it's a massive fruit basket is the problem. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes here that I don't think we've all got really line of sight on. But the long and short of it is the Competitions and Market Authority have blocked it. In order for this to be kind of like a seamless global thing for all of its consumers, it needed approval in each of the major markets, but now means the UK is going to be a bit of a holdout. Doesn't mean that it stops it going ahead in other countries. It's just that they'll have to operate in a completely different way in the UK.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of political rhetoric being thrown in here. Microsoft are playing hardball, saying that this is indicative of post-Brexit Britain not being a place to do business, and we're off to the EU. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's not my place to comment.
Take us with you.
Yeah, but they got a point.
Yeah.
So it's all getting very, very messy. Of course, Activision and Microsoft are going to appeal this in the court, so it's probably going to be in many news cycles to come. But I think the strangest thing, and you commented on this on Twitter, Tim, is that the thing that really got the CMA's back up was the cloud gaming aspect of it, which to me was just so random. It was just so random. So anyway, that's long and short of it. There's still rulings to go in the EU and the US, but the UK is given it a hard no for them being able to.
That's kind of how it's been misreported, as I understand it. And I don't know if you guys have seen Michael Pachter's analysis of this, but he's been doing the rounds. The Pack Attack. He's been doing the rounds, getting a bit of a thing. And
Pac-Man.
Okay, he's sometimes maligned, but he's the go-to kind of industry analyst for the video game industry in America. He is that for a reason. He's also apparently read the whole 90-page report, which I don't think a lot of the people doing reporting on this have. And as he has reported it, and I'm slightly, just quoting him, but he has reported it that this is slight saber rattling from the CMA. They're not necessarily blocking it, which is one thing. They have put objections in the way which need to be dealt with before they're happy for it to go ahead. They're also seemingly doing this, and the time frame of things is suspicious, that it makes it look like they're just being proactive to make it look like they are doing something before Europe rules on it, before the EU rules on this. They probably have to fall in line with the European decision, so that it makes it look a bit more like they're actively protecting people in the UK, when, as we see from their objections with the whole cloud gaming thing, which seems a bit spurious, that it does seem like that's not exactly what they're doing, especially when one of the things that they're proposing as a way out of this, which is one of the things they're doing, is anti-consumer. One of the things they're saying is that they could not add Activision Blizzard King games to their cloud gaming service, which is one way out. The other way, which is pro-consumer, you would possibly say. Oh, no, sorry, anti-consumer, because then people already paying for Game Pass wouldn't get access to these games for free and they'd have to be sold separately. So that's an actually anti-consumer move. The pro-consumer option is that they would have to state that they would not increase the price of Game Pass for a number of years, which is possibly pro-consumer. So, but the fact that one of them isn't doesn't mean that it means that they're not entirely protecting the consumer. But they are two ways out of it, and they could offer up either of those solutions. So it kind of seems like the CMA are offering up this slightly flimsy excuse of cloud gaming, which doesn't seem to hold up too much, but doing it so that they have a bargaining chip to force Microsoft's hand one way or another, so it looks like they've been more proactive in actually kind of, doing something for consumers. Yeah, it seems a little bit messy. Like, I do think this will, and Michael Pachter said that this will probably go through. This will probably go through in time for the European ruling, which is on the 22nd of May. So a lot of people are predicting that this will now rumble on for another 6 months to a year. That doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. As I said, I'm relying on Michael Pachter's analysis of this slightly because he's read the document and I haven't. But even if I had, I wouldn't necessarily be able to provide any more insight than he would, because he's probably better better at the analysis than I am. Like, it's a slightly messy situation, but I don't think it creates as big a mess as some people reported it as. I also don't think it's necessarily a block to this deal going ahead by the sounds of things. It probably will go ahead. And if it goes ahead in the UK and then it goes ahead in the EU, then it will probably get pushed through the FDA easier than it would have done otherwise. So we'll probably go through. But yeah, like...
Although the FDA have a lawsuit lodged, an active lawsuit against Microsoft and Activision Blizzard for even thinking about doing this, by the way.
I thought that was...
To me, that doesn't sound like it's something that somebody who thinks this is a chuffing good idea would do.
Well, look, as I said, relying on Michael Pachter slightly, Michael Pachter said that if the UK and the EU have already approved it, the FDA will almost be forced into doing so. So I'm not entirely sure how those systems work. I'm not entirely sure how that affects the lawsuit side of things, but he seems to think that will push things through. The other option is, as you said, that this could just be something where if the UK is the only one that objects to things, then we will be just treated differently to the rest of the world in the same way that that Warner Brothers were blocked from doing takeover things in the UK, and so we never got HBO Max, which you could arguably say has been good for consumers because it means we haven't had to pay for another service in the UK, and a lot of that content has come to other things like Netflix. So that has actually benefited consumers over here. So yeah, it could go one way or the other still, but it seems to be that this will not drag on as much as some people predicted, basically.
Yeah, I mean, in full clarity, my source of what's going on has been BBC News on this. So
I think they have a very limited understanding of the situation, but yeah.
Right.
They've been getting better.
They've been getting
with video gamey stuff. They've actually spoken.
They've been getting worse at politics, but yeah,
people that know something about video games.
I mean, I think the one thing that clearly there is a lot of posturing going on here, and there is a quote from one of Microsoft's senior execs basically saying that Microsoft was very disappointed with the CMA's decision, but that unfortunately it's bad for Britain. It does more than shake our confidence in the future of this opportunity. People are shocked, people are disappointed, people's confidence in technology in the UK is shaken. There's a clear message here. The European Union is a more attractive place to start a business than the UK.
Yes.
So they're not messing about. They're like, all right, fine, let's do this.
It's a slightly throwing the toys out of the pram response, but he's probably not wrong in a lot of what he says. It's probably justifiable criticism that you can back up with actual evidence. And so, yeah, like you can understand them reacting in the way they have. And as I said, I still don't necessarily see that this will be a massive block to the deal. And if it is, that might just work out badly or possibly well for UK consumers being treated differently. So, hey.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Yep. So there we go. So that's it. I think we're all out of stuff to talk about because I don't want to anger Tim more.
Yeah, but you didn't ask me what I thought about the CMA blocking the...
Coleman, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Not that bothered, to be honest.
It's other people's problems, to be fair.
Exactly. I genuinely I do find when it comes to like amateur podcasts such as ourselves about video games, when people start just talking about like sales numbers and things, the takeovers and things, I do kind of roll my eyes a bit and go, yeah, you haven't got any information on this. You're just reading other people's stuff, and then we do it ourselves, and I go, yeah, I don't know if this is entertaining.
Shut your dirty mouth.
But in this one, in this specific case, I think it warrants covering just because it is such big news. Like, and we have, we kind of, I think when they made the announcement of the intention to purchase initially, I think it was like an hour before we were about to record. So suddenly our entire topic had changed that week, and it made our front cover and all that kind of stuff. So, it's big news.
Now, just to spite them, Tim spent 4 hours talking about Dead Island 2, so we weren't going to give him enough attention. So, yeah, suck it. Huh? Activision Blizzard.
Everyone
You
forgets
mess
King
with our
in
news
that
cycle,
equation.
we'll
Why
mess with
does
your
everyone
news
go
cycle.
Activision Blizzard, but not King? Like, their name is Activision Blizzard
Because no one
King,
cares
yeah?
about King.
I mean, I guess like it's just a gamer thing, but a lot of people.
What do you
even
want to
get
call
people
it?
correcting
Actibliz
people
King?
that say Activision, go, no, it's Activision Blizzard, and it's Activision Blizzard King. Why did you forget the last bit? Like, abbreviate it to
'Cause it's a
ABK if you
mouthful.
want to be
No one wants to say
brief,
it.
but it's hey.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Acti-blizzing. Acti-blizzing is what I'm going to call it now.
Yeah.
I do like that somewhere down the line, if this doesn't go through, then if you lined up all our covers to all our episodes, there's going to be one random episode that just shows this big green Xbox Activision that makes no sense anymore. So,
Also,
cheers,
apparently,
CMA.
if this deal doesn't go through, Microsoft will owe Activision Blizzard King $3 billion. Apparently,
Who?
I don't know exactly how that works, but yeah, that's
in stocks.
That sounds odd.
That's in
I want
crypto.
Microsoft to offer to buy us and then not do it, and then just give us $3 billion. That'd be good. Please do that.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way. We've actually got to have something of value, Tim.
NFTs.
Non-fungible Tims.
Non-fungible Tims.
It's all.
Do you know what Tim
It's all
doesn't like?
pitch-
Being funged. We've only got non-fungible Tims here. He doesn't like the funging.
It's a bunch of pictures of Mr. November and his budgie smugglers that's on the blockchain for some reason.
That is worth no money to anyone.
Tim with a permed mullet and a pair of tighty whities.
And if you would like pictures of Tim and his budgie smugglers, then follow us on Backed. But no, we're not on Backed by.
No.
Anyway.
It's selling Dan's pictures on Only Dan.
Or the
that's gonna
Mr.
be
November,
really valuable.
or the Flesh Prince, as he likes to be known these days.
The Flesh Prince. Cool.
Right.
Shall we wrap up?
Let's please. You should go to many of the links Coleman has put in the podcast here below. How about you should particularly go to tpublic.com/store/BRB. Sweet merch awaits you. Sweet merch with my face on it. And you can buy it, and you can put my face on your face, and then you can come up to me and cause me to have an existential crisis. And I don't know what will happen. That's surely worth the price of something with my face on it. So go to there.
Buy that for $1.
tpublic.com/store/BRB. Thank you.
Excellent.
Tim, Tuesdays are a thing.
Tuesday is indeed a Tuesday, and this here Tuesday and most other Tuesdays, we do an event at the Loading Bar in Stoke, Newington called Tabletop Tuesday. Hence, it's got Tuesday in the name. We do it on a Tuesday. And
It alliterates.
for anyone that doesn't know, each and every Tuesday, we have a different feature game. And if you play that feature game that week, you can win a copy of the feature game that very evening. This week's game is a highly
Lots of
popular
mercy.
game called Sushi Party Go. And I've already done the blog post for it. So the information is available on the top left-hand corner of bigredbarrel.com. You can also search some information on meetup.com. Join our over 2,000 plus members in our meetup group. Search for Tabletop Tuesday on Meetup, or just come along to the Loading Bar in Stoke Newington on Tuesday. Play the very popular Sushi Party Go and win a copy just by doing so, possibly.
Sounds good.
Cool. Tabletop Tuesday over at Loading Bar in Stoke Newington for Sushi Party. Go there and do things and play games and win a copy of the game potentially. That's
I like
excellent,
Sushi
Tim.
Party, but not
That's
sushi.
excellent. See, at my work in the petrol station, there was someone organizing a games night, and I was leaving as they were doing their games night because go to do the podcast. And no one turned up, and it was just one person sat on their own with a stack of board games. And I had to go up and say, hey, we do this night in Loading Bar in Stoke Newington called Tabletop Tuesday. You might be interested in, and then send them the link. So you might have had an extra person. There you
Yay.
go. All right. If you have enjoyed this show, then you are a flipping weirdo, but we love you all the same.
Okay,
Oh, God, that song. Ugh.
You can find us over at bigredbarrel.com. Over there, we've got a comment section on each and every post where you can speak to us and ask us questions and things. But you can also do the same on our Discord, which there is a link there, and also a link in our show notes. And also, we have a Facebook and a Twitter at Big Red Barrel. We have a YouTube at Big Red Barrel TV if you are looking to watch us. Ooh.
We don't have a Mastodon because none of us understand how that works.
No.
Yeah, I don't. I downloaded it. I looked at it and I went, "Well, this looks rubbish," and I never bothered carrying.
The
it.
Mastodon
If anything
in the
ever
room.
overtakes Twitter, we'll do one of those. We've been
Mast
known to
your dom.
experiment. We used to have a Google Plus. That was a thing.
Oh, I remember that
Google
being
used
a
to have a
thing.
Google Plus in all fairness.
And a Stadia.
Yep.
Anywho, if you go into any of those ways, you can speak to us. You can leave us questions. You can leave us feedback. You can do whatever you want, and we will read it and check it out and put it on the show. And,
Tom, actually.
Yeah. And there will be, as Dan said earlier, links to all those things available in the show notes. So if you're on a podcast playing app, if you're on your phone, if you're on YouTube or whatever, scroll down, look at the notes. There will be links to each of those things and anything important that we may have been talking about, like live streams or trailers or things.
Yarp.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's pretty much it.
Excellent.
We're all done for this
Ooh.
week, I believe. So thank you
Well
once
done.
again for downloading us and having us nestled in your podcast app of choice. We shall be back next week with more stuff, I guess.
More stuff?
Let's call it stuff. I'm going to be
Stuff and
non-committal.
things.
Stuff and things is what we're
We'll be
going to
back
be back
with
with.
Jedi Survivor.
I thought you were going to say we're back with Jed, was you? I thought you were going to say that.
Why
for a
did
moment.
Tim become Matt Berry?
I don't know.
Jedi Survivor.
Jedi Survivor.
It's more
Survivor.
Beyonce I was going for, but it's kind of what happens in my
Oh,
head
okay.
every time I see the words Jedi Survivor. I just wanted to share that with the world because
Jedi
that's been
Survivor.
playing
I'm
out
going
in
to
my
Jedi-
head for a number of months
Right.
now.
Oh, good. Well, you know how to trigger Tim now, ladies and gents.
Yes, I'm just
Get to
cursing
it.
the rest of the world with my
Jedi
brain.
Survivor.
All right.
I'm gonna
Well,
make
you know,
it.
if before Tim starts singing, because none of us want
Flying
that.
around
Nobody
in
I
wants
my
think we all ought to
that.
go.
spaceship.
So that is that for this show. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week, as I've already said. And before I start repeating myself anymore, I'll remind you that I have been Dan.
I might have been a Jedi Survivor.
Even more than our RSS feeds this week, I have been Chaos.
So that's your lot. Thank you once again. And until next time, dear listeners, toodle bye.
Please let me drown. Please let me drown.
You and your ears are quite welcome.
For the podcasting goodness that you just heard.
Why not roll on over
To BigRedBarrel.com.
for more podcasts?
News, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet. BigRedBarrel.com.
You know, and the problem is if you don't look after your boat, you get resident weevils.
So bad.
I can't find the rim shot. Hold on. There it is.
Oh, hey, thank you.